Long before the first temples were built, before the Vedas were committed to writing, and before time itself was measured in calendars, there were the Rishis, the seers of ancient India. They did not merely believe, they perceived. They did not follow tradition, they established it through direct realization. In forests and mountains, far from society, they tuned their bodies, minds, and souls to the rhythms of the cosmos, not by chance, but through precise inner science. These sages were not priests, nor philosophers in the modern sense. They were inner explorers, those who ventured beyond thought, beyond sensation, into the quiet space where consciousness reveals its source. The term rishi comes from the root ars, meaning to see, not with the eyes, but with awakened perception. The rishis did not speculate about truth. They entered it, merged with it, and returned with sacred insight clothed in mantra and meter. The verses of the Rig Veda, the oldest spiritual literature known to humanity, were not composed. They were heard, received, in states of heightened awareness. Their path was neither dogmatic nor blind. It was rooted in practice. Tapas, inner fire; dhyana, deep meditation; and brahmacharya, the discipline of energy and focus. To the rishis, the body was not a barrier, but a vehicle. The breath was not a function, but a key. The mind was not a master, but a mirror. And through their disciplined lives, they unlocked secrets that still whisper through time. If these words awaken something within you, write in the comments the affirmation, "I seek truth through inner silence." And if you feel the presence of the ancient wisdom still alive in you, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every gesture of support helps us carry these sacred threads into the modern world. Many of the rishis lived anonymously, without concern for name or legacy, but the echoes of their realizations remain. Vyasa, the compiler of the Vedas and author of the Mahabharata, was said to have lived not as one man, but as a lineage of awakened visionaries. Vasishtha, teacher of kings and a master of breath and silence, left teachings on the mind's nature that still surpass modern psychology. Yajna, who roamed with nothing but a staff and his realization, gave teachings on the self that ring with absolute clarity. Neti, not this, not that, guiding the seeker away from illusion toward the unchanging witness. These teachings did not come through books or institutions. They emerged from inner absorption. In the ashrams hidden in Himalayan valleys and in the sacred groves of ancient forests, rishis sat in stillness, not to think, but to dissolve thought. They practiced mantra not as repetition, but as resonance, aligning their vibration with the source of sound. They performed yajnas, sacred fire rituals, not to please gods, but to reflect the offering of the ego into the flame of awareness. In the Vedic worldview, the universe is not made of matter alone, but of consciousness and sound. The rishis discovered that the subtle precedes the gross, that what is seen emerges from what is heard, and what is heard arises from silence. Their mantras were born from this silent womb, and when recited with purity, they still carry the power to realign the human system with the cosmic order. These realizations were not philosophical constructs. They were verified through inner experience. The rishis mapped states of consciousness with a precision that modern science is only beginning to approach. They spoke of turiya, the fourth state beyond waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. They described the nadis, subtle channels of energy in the body, and the bindu, the point where form dissolves into formlessness. Their language was poetic, but their insight was scientific in the truest sense, repeatable, testable, embodied. Even the rituals of daily life, when guided by Rishi consciousness, became sacred. Waking was a return to the self. Bathing was purification not just of skin, but of subtle energies. Eating was an act of offering, not consumption, but communion. Every act could become yoga, a reintegration with the whole. And this integration was not abstract. It was cultivated through precise methods, pranayama to refine the breath, asana to stabilize the body, mantra to calm the mind, and dhyana to dissolve it. The goal was never escape from the world, but clarity within it. The Rishis did not reject life. They revealed its sacred structure. They saw the same intelligence behind the stars and the soul, and their practices aligned the human with the cosmic. The Gayatri mantra, one of their greatest gifts, does not ask for wealth or protection. It invokes the illumination of the intellect. It is a prayer not for things, but for vision. The Rishis understood that true transformation is inner, that civilization rises not from tools or empires, but from consciousness. And so they left no temples of stone, but temples of sound and silence. No laws engraved in metal, but vibrations encoded in mantra. And while many of their physical traces have vanished, their teachings remain, not in the past, but in the present moment, waiting to be heard. Their practices were simple in appearance, but vast in power. Sitting still, observing the breath, repeating sacred syllables, gazing at the morning sun, offering water with intention. These acts, when performed with awareness, opened dimensions beyond the ordinary. They awakened the inner sun, the Atman, and revealed the path not just to knowledge, but to wisdom. The Rishis did not teach through debate, but through presence. Their words carried power because they came from silence. Their gaze could still the restless mind. Their life was their teaching. In their presence, the mind naturally quieted, the breath slowed, and something ancient stirred within. Those who came to them were not given doctrines, but directions, inward. They were guided to sit, to breathe, to observe, to let go. The real answers, the Rishis knew, did not lie in speech but in silence between the words. One of the lost dimensions of their teaching is the sacred science of sound. Not just mantra, but nada, the inner current of sound that flows even when the world is silent. The Rishis tuned themselves to this inner music, and through it they could trace consciousness to its source. This was the foundation of Nada Yoga, the yoga of sound, a path that recognizes that the universe is vibration, and to know the self is to tune oneself to the subtlest of vibrations. The Rishis didn't simply speak of God. They vibrated with that essence. Sacrifice, for them, was not about killing animals or making offerings for favor. It was the dissolution of the separate self. The real fire was internal. The ghee poured was attention. The smoke that rose was ego burning away. In this fire, illusions melted, and what remained was pure awareness. This was the meaning of yajna, and such rituals were performed daily, not with pomp, but with precision and reverence. Even a simple act like lighting a lamp became an invitation to inner light. What made the Rishis extraordinary was not supernatural power, but supernormal clarity. They saw reality not as it appeared, but as it is. They were aware of the unseen laws behind the visible world, the rhythm of karma, the cycles of nature, the hidden interconnections of all things. This awareness gave rise to a kind of reverence that modern life has forgotten. A blade of grass was not just biology, it was consciousness in green. A river was not just water, it was a goddess in motion. Modern seekers often look for enlightenment as an escape, a state beyond suffering. But the Rishis sought truth, even if it meant embracing discomfort. Their tapas, austerity, was not punishment, but purification. By voluntarily stepping into simplicity and silence, they peeled away all that was false. In that bareness, what remained was the soul, luminous, indestructible, free. They showed that true power comes not from control, but from surrender. Their teachings were passed not through institutions, but through initiation, from teacher to student, heart to heart. This transmission was not just of knowledge, but of vibration, a living current of awareness. It required purity, devotion, and readiness. The student had to become quiet enough to hear what cannot be spoken. This is why many of the greatest teachings were never written down. They were too subtle, too sacred for paper. They were meant to be lived. In the Himalayas and forests of South India, this lineage still flickers, like a hidden flame guarded from the winds of time. Some of the practices survive, in fragments, in rituals, in chants, but the living essence can still be accessed, not by recreating the outer forms, but by invoking the inner spirit. The path of the Rishis is not about replicating the past. It is about realizing what they realized, in your own way, in your own time, through your own direct experience. Today, as humanity faces crises of meaning, identity, and direction, the voice of the Rishis calls again, not loudly, but like a wind through the trees, or the hush before dawn. They remind us that wisdom is not gone. It waits in silence, that the soul is not missing. It sleeps beneath thought, that sacredness is not a myth. It pulses through every breath. We live in an age of information, yet hunger for wisdom, surrounded by sound, yet starved of silence. The Rishis show a different way, a way not backwards but inward. They do not demand belief. They invite exploration. Their legacy is not in any one culture, language, or religion. It is in the universal journey from noise to stillness, from identity to essence, from self to self. If this journey calls to something within you, let it be known. Write in the comments the affirmation, I remember the way of the Rishis. Like this video to keep the wisdom alive. Subscribe to the channel to stay connected to this stream of ancient knowing reborn for the present moment. And remember, what the Rishis discovered is not lost. It is simply waiting in the quiet places we no longer visit. It lives where breath slows, where thought dissolves, where the flame of attention is steady. It lives in you, and it always has.